listening to the Author Inside You podcast, a weekly podcast designed to motivate you to finish writing a book, choose a publisher, and have your work build an audience. Keep listening if you're looking to get propelled into the next chapter of your life. And now, it's the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.
Hello and welcome to the Author Inside You podcast. I'm Matt Rafferty.
And I'm Leah Rafferty.
Today's guest is Kim Interdonato, author of Shoes Are Like Men. She grew up in Long Island, where she still lives with her son today, and she's been a skating instructor for over 25 years, teaching figure skating and hockey. Welcome, Kim. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, Kim, did you play ice hockey as a little girl?
No, actually, I did not. I just kind of fell into that job. I was a competitive figure skater for a very long time, and then I got the job when I was 21 at the ice rink that I still work at, and figure skating wasn't making that much money for me, so I ended up doing power skating a little bit more, taking on more power skating lessons by doing some classes, and then the business just built from there. And now my son has been doing hockey, so I really got into that.
That's pretty cool. So you're probably a very, very strong skater.
Yes, I can skate backward really good.
Yeah. Well, not many people can, so congratulations. And you wrote a book. I mean, wow.
I can barely do it forward.
Yeah.
So tell us about your book. What's it about? Shoes Are Like Men.
Shoes Are Like Men is a really fun, comical read that when I wrote it, I wanted everyone to think a little more positive about their dating. Because when I wrote it, I was in a really bad place right before it. About a couple of months before that, someone broke up with me, and it was like another guy that broke up with me. I was sitting in a restaurant with my girlfriend, and I told her, I'm done with dating. I'm done with men. I'm overdone. And she was like, well, you got to start thinking of men are like shoes, that you have to just, when one doesn't work out, you just try on the next one until you find a pair that's going to fit you and feel good. And I thought that was so funny.
Yeah.
And so, I thought that was so smart of what she said. And then I happened to be, I left the restaurant, and, after a couple of days of thinking and still wallowing in my little pity party I was having that, I got another guy break up with me. I ended up wanting to write. I just wanted to write things down, like,
So
all
you
the
just
positive
had a
things in my
feeling
life.
like I need to write this down?
Yeah. You know what? I wanted to start writing positive things down, and I didn't want to start thinking negative. Because when you think now, universal law, I don't know, God, universe, whatever you believe in, I always believe in the universal law is if you think positive things are going to happen. And I just had to turn my brain around, and that's why I started doing it. And then lo and behold came the book. I just started writing things down on my computer and starting writing things down, and I just started laughing to myself. And now not going on dates, because I was kind of going through a little dating cleanse. I wasn't going to any dates, and I really like to go out to nice restaurants here on Long Island. So I ended up going out and taking my computer and going out to the Hamptons and going out to restaurants that I wanted to go to. And, I wasn't so lonely once I started writing about, my dates and the computer, and I started typing. I wasn't so lonely anymore. And it was actually very fun and very cleansing. And believe me, when I wrote the book, I didn't want to write it with any intentions of any negative feelings or any man bashing.
Okay.
And all of my ex-boyfriends, probably about a good 80% of them, have contacted me after the book, and they even laughed about the book, and they said it was very funny.
Oh, good.
And
That's cool.
They asked me which shoe they were, and I told them.
Oh, how fun.
But they kind of figured it out and, knew who was who. But I didn't want to be a male basher. I didn't want it to be negative. I wanted it to be positive, and I wanted people to look at it and say, you know what, listen, everybody goes through it. All of us women, all of us men, we all go through breakups. If you're in the dating world, you're going to get someone to break up with you. You're going to get your heart broken. It's a matter of how you fare through it, and how you can, face the reality of, all right, someone broke up with me, then I'll move on and I'll find somebody else. And it's hard when you're going through it. It really is. And it's not so funny. But once you look back at it, I was reading some of these, I was thinking about some of these dates, and oh my God, it was really funny. So I just started putting it down.
Okay, great.
So were you a writer before? Had you written anything, or was this just a spur of the moment? I think I'll try writing.
You know what? I think that your podcast is great because somebody like me should hear this. And whoever's out there listening, don't ever think that you can't write, because I never wrote a thing in my lifetime. This was the first thing I wrote, and it was, I have to say, not for nothing, it did pretty well. And even the Daily News I got really great reviews in the Daily News.
Great.
And,
Wow.
if you look up, yes, the New York Daily News, which is not an easy accomplishment.
No, that's impressive.
For your first book. But, it was a lot of hard work, but it was worth it. And if you just, concentrate on what you're doing and write what you like, it's going to come out very easy. I think the hardest thing for me was illustrating it. That came out harder for me, was illustrating it, because you sit down and you really seriously think about what you want to write. It'll come out. There's no such thing as a writer's block if you know what you want to do and you keep yourself organized.
But then you illustrated your book.
I also illustrated it too, yes.
Well, that's pretty cool.
And how many illustrations are in the book? I apologize, I don't have the book in front of me, but how many illustrations?
I think 14, including the front cover.
Great. Wow. That's pretty cool.
And are you an artist?
I actually went to school for art, believe it or not.
Oh, okay. Welcome.
But I wasn't a great artist. I was okay artist. I wasn't a great English major either. So you know what? You don't have to be great at something. You just have to have a passion for it. And once you have a passion for something, you're going to do well. If you find you love something, it's going to come out with love. And this book came out with so much love, and anybody that's read it I've gotten so many great reviews on Amazon, and anybody that's read it has told me the same thing. It made them laugh, and it made them feel like they weren't the only person. And that's exactly what I want to feel. I wanted to feel like it was a story that I was telling you, and that we are sitting here in a room like we're doing, sitting down and having a nice conversation.
Well, that must make you feel great, that when somebody tells you that they read your words and you made them laugh, because they say humor is really difficult to pull it off. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's great. I never heard that humor is very difficult, but if it is, I'm very thrilled to death, because I actually had a couple of girlfriends were reading my book. A girlfriend and her friend were reading the book about 2 weeks ago. And I just happened to walk by, and they were hysterical laughing. I said, "What are you guys laughing about?" We were on a dock, and they're like, "We're reading your book, and we're laughing." And one of the guys goes, "Oh, that's not nice." I said, "Are you kidding me? That's the best compliment I can get." And he's like, "Oh, what kind of book is it?" I said, "It's a very funny book." And we got into the whole book, and they said the book was hysterical. They were laughing out loud.
Oh, that's great.
Well, good. I hope you sold the guy a copy.
Yeah.
No, it was a friend of mine. I had to give him one.
Okay, so you had this idea in your head, and you were writing, and you're going to the nice restaurants. But how did you make it a reality?
I didn't think it would become a reality. I said, I don't know. I just kind of woke. I know this sounds really odd, and this is going to sound really odd to most people. I just woke up and said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to just send it to a publisher. I went on the internet. I looked around for different publishing companies. I did self-publish, but this publishing company that I went with, I interviewed several different companies, and this one I went with was pretty interesting. It's called Mind Stir Media, and they're out of Massachusetts. And the guy is more of a mentor than he is like he only takes on work that he believes in, or that he likes. So I wanted to challenge myself, and at least, I didn't want to go with just anybody to just take my book on and just, publish it and just make it look like, okay, I'm a very amateur. I really wanted to make it look professional, and it really did come out professional looking. And it was my first book, so I was very nervous with it. I was, I'm very confused of what was the right thing. Was I doing the right thing? Reading contracts, bringing it to friends, talking to friends. Yeah. It is, and believe me, I totally understand. I mean, I've made more mistakes with this book than probably anybody has, but it was a good learning process. And if you go through it, the best way to do things sometimes is to jump right in instead of putting your tippy toe in and putting your tippy toe in the pool.
Right.
Just jump right in and do it.
Get your hair wet.
So, right, exactly.
Are there any of those mistakes that you learned from? Anything that you want to share with us?
Yes, absolutely. I can share you all day long about the mistakes I've made. I always say my mistakes are my failures are my best assets sometimes, because it got me to where I am. I spent way too much money on advertising when I could do most of my advertising myself.
I think someone else said that too to us.
Yeah, that they advertised in magazines and writing journals.
You're right. Yeah.
And exactly, you just got to be proactive and, go on websites and, get on radio and podcasts. I've done plenty of them, and yours included, and it's great. And you get to meet awesome people and get great connections. I got hooked up with somebody that said they were going to, market my book and market me, and I gave him $500, and I never heard from the guy.
Oh,
wow. I'm sorry to hear that.
As I said, it's okay, but I learned my lesson. As much as sometimes you got to put your hand on the fire. If you get burned, you got to pull it off. And I've done a lot of those bad mistake things, and paid $800 for a press release and got nothing out of it. So you can write your own press releases. You can do this yourself.
Sure.
And you know what? If you believe in your book and you believe in yourself, you're going to go very, very far. But don't ever second guess yourself. And even if your first book is not the best one, try another one. Don't ever give up. And don't ever give up on your dreams.
Excellent. Maybe I really like that. No one else has said that. You're right. Maybe your first one isn't exactly good, the right one, but the second one, excellent. Thank you for sharing that.
You can make your second one perfect.
Yeah.
I thought this one, and I even said that. I was like, this is my beta test. If this one's good, I'll try another one. And I did.
Good.
You know what? I always tell everybody, I always try to encourage people. Even people come up to me, oh, I've always wanted to write a book, but I never did. Well, neither did I. Go take a computer, go take a computer and go do it. It might not come out great, but you can go back and fix it. And there's no time frame. There's no one putting pressure on you but yourself.
Right.
And everything doesn't have to be perfect all the time. We all try to make things in this perfect little box, and we all want to be these perfect people. And sometimes it's really good to be imperfect.
Well, it's never been easier to write a book than it is today. Right? I mean,
absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. There's self-publishing. There is Amazon does self-publishing.
Sure.
There's a million different ways to look at it. And self-publishing is a good way to go too. I like the fact that I have a lot of freedom with my book. I can take it anywhere. They can't tell me I can't take it here and I can't take it there. If I want to improve on it, if I want to do something else, if someone picks it up, I hope another publisher picks it up. I would be thrilled to death. But I have that freedom being self-published.
Yeah. So tell us about the process of publishing.
How did you pick that publisher?
I actually, as I said, I interviewed several of them. I wanted somebody that he seemed like he was very old business. I like that. And he was no nonsense. And I'm pretty silly as a person normally. And when we were on the phone, he's like, listen, you have 24 hours to wow me. I am going to read 15 minutes of your book. I will know if I'm going to publish it or not. And he called me within 2 hours and said, this was hilarious. I'm actually going to publish it. And I was so thrilled to death with that.
Yeah, I bet.
That I went with that. And that wasn't the expensive part. My expensive part was getting it edited and, as I said, the press release and all the other stuff that I added to it, which you don't have to do that. And now my next book, I know better what not to do.
Oh, so you are writing a second book.
I've written it. It is at the editors. It went there today.
Congratulations. Oh, that's great.
Thank you. And I did this now, I'm not a writer, and I want everyone to know that. I was not a writer. I was a skating instructor for 25 years. I wrote 2 books within a year. If I can do it, anybody else can. Focus yourself. You can do this.
So what's your second book about?
My second book has got my same little comical, relief in there, and it is about me being a hockey instructor and a woman in a very male-dominated world, and how I was not welcomed with open arms when I first started this job. And even if I've been there for 25 years, I still was not welcomed with open arms getting into the hockey world. And it's been difficult. And I think this day and age that a book about women and overcoming obstacles is a really good thing. And that's what Shoes Are Like Men was too. I wanted people to realize that you can overcome these obstacles, whether it's whatever it is in your life, whether it's dating, whether it's at your job, whether it's wanting to start a new career, whether it's writing a book. You can overcome any obstacle, and nothing is permanent. And don't ever think that your situation is that bad, or if it's really that bad, you can write about it, and you feel like so tremendous. You feel like so great, like this relief when you write about things. Even if it's not a good piece, put it on a piece of paper. It's so good feels so good to get everything out. It's like sometimes the best therapy. It was very therapeutic writing my book.
Well, that's what we have 2 daughters, and when they get angry about something, I'm like, write it down because it makes you feel better, I've kept a journal my whole entire life, and it's just been nice, because it does. It just, for some reason, writing words down does help. I don't know why, but it does.
After my first divorce, I did write a journal, and I found it was very negative. It was, like if I read back at it now, it was very negative. And then a couple of years after, I read a book, and I'm sure if any of your readers have ever read it, called The Secret. And it was about just more or less what I got out of the book was just to try to think more positive. Okay. And I'm always usually a positive person, but I was like, you have points in your life when you're really down.
Sure.
And I ended up taking that book, my journal, and I said, you know what, I'm going to put this one away and start a new one. And instead of writing all the things I don't have and all the things that aren't in my life, I'm going to write a book about the things I was thankful for. And some days there was things I wrote down and it was only like one or two things. I'm thankful for my son and I'm thankful for my house. And then as I and other days, the list went on and on and on. So you saw the days that I was really positive. You saw the days I was really negative. And I was trying to get, I was tipping the scales. I wanted my scales to tip in the point where I was more positive than I was more negative. And that's where that book came out of. And I wanted, when people read this book, I really, really want them to not only just laugh, but to also come out with a feeling that, wow, this girl isn't going to be bitter about dating, and I shouldn't be bitter about dating. And
connect with
think possible. Absolutely. And it's a great book to connect with. And, I encourage people, please, call, email me.
Oh,
you can
great.
Instagram me.
Oh,
you
good.
You can Facebook me. And people have been. And, I'm like, and men have even Facebooked me and chatted about the book. And, it's not a male bashing book. And I wrote that in the very first chapter, that this is not a male bashing book, because I refuse to make anybody feel bad. It's not going to make me feel good, hurting somebody else's feelings.
Right.
So I didn't want to hurt any of the guys I dated. And let me tell you something, I was not the best person to date at times either. And if I was some of these guys, I would have put my running sneakers on and ran myself. But, as I said, it gives you a sense of, reality.
So how is a good way for people, I mean, you mentioned that you write back to people who write to you. How is a good way for people to get in contact with you?
You can get in contact me with shoes R, the letter R, like men, at Gmail. But it's also on my website, so it's really easy to get in touch with me. My website's very, very simple. It's shoesareLikemen.com. You can get my book on Amazon. You can get my book on BarnesandNoble.com. A few local bookstores have it here on Long Island. But the best way is Amazon, and it's free shipping. And the book is not an expensive book. Book's $9.99. It's also in Kindle version. Good. It's $4.99. So it's a cheap book, and if you're sitting down and you're lonely one date night that you think you should be on a date, go grab the book and go grab a glass of wine and have a good laugh on me.
Sounds great.
It does sound like a good idea.
So what about marketing? What have you been doing for marketing?
Marketing.
Oh, you said a lot of podcasts, right?
A lot of podcasts, a lot of radio. Another author friend of mine wrote a book, and he suggested that I do a lot of radio and podcasts, and I love doing them, and I have a great time talking to people. And I think I'm a pretty decent interview.
Correct. Yes, you can speak. That's wonderful. Yeah, you have a lot of personality.
How do you find radio stations? That might sound intimidating to somebody, calling a radio station.
No, you know what? Go on the website and inquire. Listen, I've gotten told no plenty of times. I've gotten told no by plenty of people. There's a newspaper out here that I keep nagging, and they keep telling me it's a local newspaper that only local people will get. And it's not even like it's it's international or not as big as the Daily News. I said, "It's in the Daily News." They're like, "We don't care. You're only you're only so little." I've had people tell me that I'm a nobody, and then I've told the woman, "Well, so are you." But and you're gonna, you got to face a little rejection. And, if you write a book, don't think it's all roses and sunshine and kittens, because it isn't. It definitely isn't. And you're going to get your feelings hurt. I've gotten my feelings hurt. And then I've, learned to pick myself up.
Right.
Well, they could even do a story about local woman New York Post. Right? Yeah. There's a story for them right there.
They didn't even care about that. I mean,
that's weird.
I could have been the 6 o'clock news dancing, I could have been dancing in a gorilla suit. I still don't think they'd put my book on the paper. I'm sorry. I just try every day to do a little something for the book,
Okay.
And I know people have, everyone's got busy schedules, but, write, have a general email. My name is Kim Donato. I wrote The Shoes Are Like Men. And the authors, have a general email about your book and what it describes it, and send it out to everybody you know. Put everything on Facebook. Everyone's got Facebook friends. Social media, my best asset. My best asset, social media.
Great. And which one seems to work the best for you?
They're all working pretty well.
Great,
I have to say
great.
they're all working really good, but I'm very proactive with it. You have to put a lot of time into it.
Mm-hmm.
And books aren't like, believe me, my last quarter, I didn't do so hot.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I'm going to do really good this quarter. And if I don't, I'll do good the next quarter.
Okay.
Right.
It's, you got to, as I said, I believe in myself, and you all have to believe in yourselves, and no one else is going to believe in you but yourself. And people are going to tell you. I've had my family tell me I was nuts for doing this. I mean, and now everyone's like, when's your next book coming out? I'm like, wait a minute, didn't you all tell me I was crazy? And, don't do it. And, you're spending too much money, and, and
now they're all saying they know a published author.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Can you sign my book for me? No.
Yeah.
So
I don't say that to anybody.
Are you concentrating on radio stations in New York, in the New York area, or are you like aiming all over the country and just seeing who replies?
No, I'm all over the country, and I've been in LA last week. I was in Nevada the week before, Florida a lot. I like doing the radio shows. I like doing the live shows because it puts you under a little pressure.
Mm-hmm,
I feel it feels good.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't feel like I have enough pressure in my life. So
Yeah.
Right. But I suppose after you do one or two, it's no big deal, right? The butterflies are gone, and you're like, okay, sure.
I agree with you. I used to get very nervous doing podcasts or radio shows. My stomach was turning. I would be nervous the whole day. And now I'm like, hey, I got an interview. I'm going upstairs and going, locking myself in my room and doing my interview. I like doing them. I like talking to people. And I feel like I like talking about my book because I just think it's so cute and fun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good. Well, it's just interesting, like you said, how your life, you think it's going one way, and now here's a whole new opportunity for you. You're meeting all these people across the country. And what about your son? What's he think about you doing this?
Or
is
my
he too
son
young?
is so. No, my son is 8. He kind of gets it, and every once in a while I'll read the book to him, and it's it's very fluffy. So it's not I didn't put anything in there that it was going to embarrass him in the future, because I knew I had a son to worry about.
I mean, all the attention that you get to be on the podcast, on the radio shows, it must be exciting for him.
Actually, he wanted to be on the radio today with you too, but I told him no.
Hello. No, well, that's fun. I would just think the excitement would be. And now with your positivity or being so positive, it rubs off on him also.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, matter of fact, I have to tell you a story. I had a really bad day a couple of days ago. I just nothing was going right, and I was just miserable. So as positive as I am, we all have our days. I'm human, just like everybody else. My son, when I tell you, my son just makes me want to be a better person. He just does. He goes, "Don't worry, mommy. Just think of the world as like one big giant cupcake." And you know what? For some, I just started crying, and I said, "You know what? Me and you are healthy. We're happy.
Yeah.
We're not rich. We're, I am,
right.
Making our bills. I have a roof over our head. We're able to eat. You know what? Me and you are both happy and healthy.
Right.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good."
Yeah. Right.
When you put things in perspective, and when you see it, believe it or not, when you see things through an 8-year-old's eyes, it's amazing how you think differently. And I work with a lot of children all day long, and I'm always telling them to believe in themselves. And I always try to tell everybody else, I'm always trying to be everyone's cheerleader. And sometimes you got to be your own cheerleader.
Mm-hmm. And that's
hard for a lot of us.
Right. Especially women.
As a woman, and especially, people that are trying to write books or, I think your podcast is wonderful because I think everybody should listen to this, and whoever would like to write, or even if you don't write, you want to get into writing, even if you may not make $1 million doing it, but you know what? If you're having a good time and you're enjoying yourself, do it.
Yeah, one of our guests said that he wrote it for himself, pretty much. He just wanted to do it for himself, and he said he feels great just that he did it. It was like a goal. And he accomplished it.
Sure.
Right, exactly.
So people have said that, right? You can't write for someone else. You need to write for yourself. And then if you enjoy it, then share it. And
usually people can see that you enjoy it, and it takes, people will like it.
I wrote that book with a lot of love in mind. I really did. I wanted to come out with love, and I wanted to come out with humor, and I wanted it to come out with such a positive attitude. So by the time you got to the end of my book, I wanted you to say, I don't know how many dating books anybody's ever read here, listening, or you guys, if you've read a lot of dating books. But let me tell you something. After a while, you read a couple of them. After a while, you don't even the author that's writing the book. You don't want to be around this girl. You're like, oh my God, she's annoying. And I didn't want to be like that. I wanted to be a short, simple, funny book that I wasn't going to annoy anybody with. Oh my God, my life is so horrible. This guy did this to me, and this guy did that. I read a book. I couldn't even get through the thing, and it was about a girl internet dating, and I was like, and there's so many of them out there, and her experiences, and she was a writer, and I was like, I actually wanted to call her and go, are you the most negative person? No wonder no one wants to date you.
Well, going back to the writing process, you said that it seemed like it was pretty easy for you, or some days did you say, yeah, maybe this just isn't going to work?
I was lucky. It was really easy for me.
Right?
It really was.
That's
I think it was easy because I was organized.
Okay.
I knew exactly what I wanted to say. I knew exactly how I wanted to put it. And every day and my brain goes crazy sometimes. And, sometimes even with my job, like if I can't figure out a problem, I'll be stuck on it for hours and hours and hours to the point where until I get my problem solved. And I just sat there and thought of every chapter I wanted to do, and then I started plugging in everything from there.
Now, did you do this mentally, or did you have it written down on a piece of paper?
Mentally, I'm not that good. Okay. So I had to write.
Okay.
I had to write it down.
So you had like an outline on a piece of paper.
I had an outline, and there were outlines all over the house. There were outlines on my phone. I would speak into my phone. I would get some crazy idea, or somebody would tell me something, and I would start laughing. And when I was doing this, everyone was like, kind of pretty much my family, even my friends were patronizing me, going, oh, that's cute. You're going to write a book. I'm like, no, it's going to be successful. Okay, Kim. There's the Kim, the big dreamer. And yes, I am quite the dreamer. But you know what? I always think that dreamers need realists, and realists need dreamers. And we all need to be like, we also have a realist in your life, and you also have a dreamer in your life.
Now, what about editing? Did you have any problems with the editing process, or?
Oh my God, my editor probably had a field day with me. My grammar is probably the worst, but she did a lot of editing, and I probably should have sent her a bottle of wine after that. But but now my second book that I'm doing, you know what? It wasn't as bad. I feel like I used to write just everything and she had to take out all the likes and the justs, and the punctuations were incorrect. And
so now it's a learning process.
My spelling's atrocious, but you live and you learn. And that's what anything, when you first start doing anything, when you first doing podcasts, you probably weren't that great at it. You were nervous, and it was hard. This is not, this is hard. But as you do things longer and longer, it gets to be a routine, and it gets to be easier. And hey, who knows? Maybe the second book's not going to be, maybe the second book's going to bomb. Maybe the third one will be the charm. You never know.
Right.
Okay. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kim, you've given us a ton of advice, but do you have any particular advice you want to share with somebody who's writing a book, who might be listening or thinking about writing a book?
My best advice to you is just, don't listen to anybody else. Just listen to yourself. And if you believe in yourself, don't worry about what everybody else says. You know what? Everybody talks about everybody. And as I said, a lot of people told me not to do it. But you know what? I'm the one that had to rest my head on the pillow every night and worry about my own problems. And everybody's got to do that for themselves. So, you know what? Worry about yourself. Have a good time doing it. And write about something that you are passionate about and that you love. Because when you get through that, like a story that you love or you really, really love, it'll project in your book. Trust me. It'll project in your book. And I'm not a writer, and I'm telling you that because I read a lot.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
And you have a lot of good advice. Thank you. And it's fun that you're such a go-getter.
Yeah. And you've been a great guest. So thank you very much for joining us on our episode here of the Author Inside You.
What's your favorite episode of The Author Inside You? Let us know on our website at authorinside.you.com.
And you can do us a huge favor by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. And until next time,
right on.
Thank you for listening to the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.